Whew, I have been not avoiding, but definitely putting off making this video all day, mostly because of how I know my people are and the cognitive dissonance that my people seem to have when it comes to death in our community. Here's a skinny, right? So how can we, in the same group of people, call an innocent person who is an adult, or even let's say a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, however old, teenager, child out of the womb, between 1 to 10? How is it that we can consider any of those deaths a tragedy? How is it that we can consider when a woman has multiple miscarriages and she becomes pregnant, but she loses those pregnancies due to health issues or, whatever the case may be? Why is it that those things are considered a tragedy, but when 1 out of 2 Black children is aborted from the womb by their own mother, why is that not seen as a tragedy? Why is that not seen as barbaric? It's the same thing. And our community has really turned a blind eye and put the fingers in the ears, going la 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 la, not wanting to talk about this for so long. But I think that the necessity for this conversation is becoming more and more, because the way that I see the tragedies that happen in our community now is, what do you expect? What do you expect to happen in a community that what do you expect to happen in a community that sows death? What do you think they're going to reap? What do you think is going to happen in a community that celebrates violence? What do you expect to happen? Do you expect for the children to grow up listening to rappers and singers talking about killing each other and just doing general crime on each other? What do you expect those children to grow up desiring to do? What do you expect when you hear all these rap songs about people doing drugs and copious amounts of alcohol and prostitution, stripping? What do you expect with a culture with no soul? Really, what do you expect? Because it seems like too much is being expected of people who have shown you who they are. And the fact that the Asian community, they don't have this kind of uncouth behavior as something that is popular in their community. Filipinos, maybe. In China and Japan and Korea, do they have rappers and things like that? Sure. But is that their main pop culture? No, it's not. Why is our main pop culture one of bragging about killing other people? Why is our main pop culture about robbing men for their money by using sex to lure men in to rob them? Why is our mainstream culture about our daughters taking their clothes off for money, as if there are not hundreds of industries that they could go into that would actually be lucrative and profitable and wouldn't decrease their value over time, their personal value over time? It's a culture issue. We have a horrible culture. And it's crazy because on social media, people just act like it doesn't exist. Twitter is one of the most vile places on earth. It's not even a real place, but it's where the sickest, actually, no, let me not say that because Reddit exists. Twitter is one of the sickest places that people go to just spew filth and vileness everywhere. And Black Twitter, there really aren't words for it. You know, we like to pretend that our culture is just fun and people just wanting to have a good time, but really all of the 7 deadly sins are basically the pillars of Black culture. They're the pillars of it. Idolizing money, pillar of Black culture. Putting a false god before him. Gluttony, pillar of Black culture. We want to talk about soul food. You want to talk about any kind of food. You want to talk about the one group in America that's probably the biggest overall, women and men. I don't know why I'm yelling, sorry. But it's like we are refusing to acknowledge that the things that have become figureheads in our culture, the things that have become things that people strive for, things that people brag about, are the exact opposite of what we should be going for. We should not be trying to be foodies. Really, we shouldn't. I try to fight being a foodie every day. I just came off of a 21-day fast at my church, and I'm not sharing that information to gloat or anything like that, but I did not realize how addicted I was to fast food and red meats and sweets and just everything that is bad for me. I didn't realize how addicted I was to it until I had to fast for 12 hours every day for the last 21 days. I didn't realize how addicted I was to caffeine until I just had to fast for it and I was barely able to function. But we have to think to ourselves, if I have to take a drug every morning just to function, I am sick. Something that I'm doing in my day-to-day life is making me sick to where I have to take this drug, right? And I don't understand why we don't look at it that way. I don't understand why. Well, I understand now because we spend so much time being distracted, just trying to distract ourselves from these lives that we hate, right? Because we don't really get to have a real community. It's so funny to me that these parasocial relationships, people think that they're close to people that they've met online, that they're really not close to, you know, like your neighbors and people that you see every day, wherever it is that you live and where you work. That is your community. The people that you meet online, that's great, but it's not a real world. Those are not your actual neighbors. When there's a fire in your building, those people online are not going to be there to help you. It's going to be your actual neighbors. We have to build actual communities in our actual communities. And this just the fakeness. I hate the sedittiness of it all, you know, because there are a lot of Black people who came from very, very humble beginnings. And then they get all this money, they move their family out somewhere very far away. They spend, you know, lots of money on everything for no reason, really. And they forget where they came from. And more importantly, they don't teach it to their children that the lifestyle that I may be rapped about or the lifestyle that I fought to get out of is not one to be glamorized. Yaya Mayweather is a great example of that. It's just sad. It's so sad how we completely negate what we as a community have done to get to the point where we have. Why is it? Oh my gosh. I hope that this doesn't get triggered for being hate speech, but I'm tired of this, so I'm going to speak on it. Why is it that you cannot go to very many popular, largely widely Black churches and enjoy a worship service that is not led by someone who really shouldn't be there? Someone who should not be, what is a good word? Okay, I'm saying it like this. You cannot lead me in worship. You cannot lead me, period, to the throne of God if you are living a lifestyle that is contrary to what he says is acceptable. So if you're a drug addict, if you are somebody who's in fornication, if you are somebody who is idolatrous, who worships other gods, you can't lead me in worship to my God. You don't have the fruit for that. You shouldn't be up there. And I know that, in a way it's like you don't want to tell people that they can't come to church, right? But where do we draw the line? Where do we say, okay, this is acceptable and this is absolutely not acceptable? Where do we say, okay, I feel uncomfortable with this man leading the songs for the worship, and he has the mannerisms of a woman and he sounds like a woman, but he's definitely a man. And that makes me uncomfortable. And I should be able to just freely worship, in church. That's a distraction. That's flesh having glory, especially because some of them, it just seems like it's like another form of drag show to them. Like it's just a performance. And it really bothers me because it's like they're mocking God. And I get really territorial is not the good word. It's more like hostile when it comes to people playing in God's face. And I'm watching it. Like I get really upset because number one, I've been there. I've been the one that played in God's face, and I see what that can lead to. I don't want anybody to live that lifestyle, right? But on the other hand, when they know what they're doing and they continue every Sunday, and that this person is living a lifestyle that is contrary to what they're telling other people to live in the front of the church on Sunday, where do we draw the line as the church? Because this is not your grandmother's church anymore, right? This is not glory, glory, hallelujah. This isn't that kind of church anymore. A lot of those church members are dying. Moses' generation is going away, and it's time for Joshua to rise up. But where is he at? Where are the Joshuas? I've been in church for the last, how long has it been that I've been Christian? I think the last 10 years or so. And there's not a lot of young people. There's not nearly enough young people, even middle-aged people. There's not enough of them. There's not a lot of them. It's a lot of old people. And maybe that's because, as people get closer to the ends of their lives, they start getting scared. They start thinking about, what is coming up next. And while people are young and feel like they're invincible, they think that they have time to put God off. But I'm here to tell y'all, anyone who sees this video, you don't have time. God is the only one who has time. He sits outside of time. He's the one who can say, okay, I was going to have this person live for X amount of days, but let's just cut their life short because they're not, they're treating my children bad, or, something like that. They're not listening to me. They're not following after me. So let's just cut their life short. Like, he's the one who can make a decision like that and decide that your breath is done. You don't have time. There are people who last night thought that they were going to wake up this morning and they didn't. There are people who went to bed a couple of minutes ago with plans for tomorrow who are not going to wake up. And to continue to play, to continue to do the dun, 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 and still teach your children that it's okay to abort the children that they had out of wedlock, to teach your children that it's okay to fornicate, to not train up your children in the way that they should go, to teach your children that it's okay to be an alcoholic and go to church still. That it's okay to be an addict, a drug addict, and still go to church. A lot of the issues that I really have with the church are with older generations because a lot of the way that they learned how to do church is just so wrong. It's so wrong. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I became an adult. When I was a child in church, I thought everybody was holy. You know, it wasn't until I became an adult and started actually seeing how these people live in their houses and being like, hey, that person is an alcoholic just like my father, and I see them at church every Sunday. Because my father was Muslim, so he didn't come to church. He knew better. We really have to stop playing. And until we stop this game, until we stop thinking that God is for play, until we start taking him seriously, what do we expect to happen in our do we expect protection? Do we expect divine protection when we're playing in God's face? Is that what we're expecting? Do we expect divine provision? Do we expect God to provide for us when we are playing in his face? Really? Really? Because he's been the same God yesterday, today, and forever. He mocked the children of Israel, even though they were his children, even though they were his people, his beloved. He mocked them in the day of their calamity because they chose to do exactly what he told them not to. So what do we think is going to happen when we're in the same situation? He's the same God right now, same God back then. It works for good things, but it also works for things that we don't consider to be good, for things that wouldn't benefit us. He is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So that means the same way you couldn't play with God in the beginning is the same way that you can't play with God now.